tell you I once got forced to go on vacation after working 21 days straight and crying in my office alone on a Sunday during grant writing season, when I was also trying to write a solicitation letter, when I was also trying to fill out all of our state and federal funding annual reports. Vacation, burnout, quit. It happened to me, and I am here to tell you some quick tips on how you can avoid it moving forward. Hi, I'm Kelly, the nonprofit nerd, and I help nonprofit executives just like you create a life and organization of intention, ease, and impact. And that's what we're really all about, and that's really what this video is all about today, is how can we create the most impact and reach our mission and vision of our organization without losing ourselves. Before we get started talking about those tips for burnout, I have 7 of them. Make sure to subscribe below and like this video, because I'm sure it's going to help you live a more intentional, stress-free life in your nonprofit leadership career. And without further ado, here are 7 tips from me to you on how you can avoid burnout as a nonprofit executive director. My first tip is to note your feelings and practice self-care. Yeah, this is the most frou-frou-y of all the tips, I think, but it really is the most impactful. Just taking 15 minutes a day, every single day, to step outside, to notice when you're feeling anxious and what's causing it, name it as anger, and move forward to doing all the things that I don't have the time to give you tips to. But I hope if this is something that really resonates with you, is like, oh yeah, I am constantly running around like a chicken with my head cut off and I don't know how to stop, but like, I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, then make sure to research more about feelings and noting, and maybe even research meditation. That is a first tip on how you can avoid burnout, is to practice self-care, whatever that means to you, and to really start noting your feelings. Now, my second tip, and this is often what happens with our, we're trying to do all these things and we're building a plane as we fly it as nonprofit leaders, trying to support everyone and give when we don't have the space. And sometimes it's also when we don't have the expertise. And I will tell you, we do not have to be experts at everything. It's okay to admit lack of knowledge in some space. But what is important, instead of just trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and failing and trying, instead of doing that, go ahead and, tip number 2, get training or take advantage of professional development. Now, if you're thinking right now, you don't have enough time to do that, I got a few tips for you in this how to avoid burnout. And tip number 3 is just that. Make sure you're prioritizing the right stuff. And by right stuff, I mean those needle-moving things for your organization. If you don't know what those are, make sure to watch this video on how to reclaim 10 hours per week in your work week. And if you're like, Kelly, I don't have time to prioritize, I'm too busy, definitely watch that video. But some quick tips if you don't have time, which you should, especially if this is a problem, to watch the full video on reclaiming 10 hours in your work week. I highly recommend you focus on creating space to do those needle moving things. So it's not just about prioritizing those big tasks that focus on the mission and vision of your organization and your strategic plan. It's getting rid of that crap that takes up all your time, like open door policies from 9 to 5, like all of the community meetings that maybe don't have any impact on your organization or your mission and vision, like being really proud of always answering your phone and being responsive to email, and instead structuring time where you make phone calls and structuring time once or twice per day where you respond to all your emails instead of constantly having your emails open. If any of those resonate with you and you think, oh, that would give me more time to prioritize, please make sure to watch this video on how to reclaim 10 hours per week in your work week. And that is needle moving when it comes to avoiding burnout, is having 10 more hours of peace. And tip number 4 is to create a habit of saying no instead of yes, and setting boundaries. This is something for me as a professional I wish I would have had back in the day when I took so much pride in working 80 hours a week and so much pride in always being busy. And I wish I had said no to things that really weren't aligned to the mission and vision of my program and what I needed to do for myself. And if you know me now, you know I'm real good at saying this doesn't really align, this isn't a priority for me right now. If you call my phone, which is not my preferred method of communication, it literally says,
"Hi, this is Kelly, the nonprofit nerd. Phone is not my preferred method of communication. If you'd like to reach me, you can email me at..."
So I highly recommend, remember, this is your job, your life. You design it in a way that works for you. And when we constantly feel like we're, which happens to us all the time, we constantly feel like we don't have time and we're running around like chicken and it's smaller, we have to, should. That's when burnout happens. So set boundaries so you're not busy doing all of those things that are not moving your organization or you as a human being forward. Tip number 5 is to track progress. And if you're like me, this is something that's very difficult to do. I've been told I was deficit based. This is feedback I've gotten from bosses. In general, I get lots of, wow, Kelly, you're so wonderful. You really can move forward. You're so self-motivated. Like 99.9% of the positive, the feedback I've gotten from supervisors and colleagues has been positive. But 2 pieces of negative information that probably mean for me to avoid burnout, I need to make sure I'm tracking and celebrating my progress is you're deficit based and you're always focusing on what went wrong and you don't quite focus on what went right and the successes you have. So if you're like me, make sure you're tracking progress, not just focus on what's that big thing 100 years out there, right? Or 5 years out there, what's the vision? But you're really like, this is a smart goal I have. This is how close I've gotten to it. I'm going to take a moment to be positive and celebrate and see success in these little steps instead of just waiting until you get to the end and always feeling like a failure. In the nonprofit space, when we have big goals of changing lives and really, really reaching the mission and vision that can seem so abstract, it's important that we celebrate the small wins. This is something I tell my clients to do every day. This is something that if you're part of the stress-free ED community, I will definitely be telling you to do. And now, no matter what the goal of a training or group coaching program is, I make sure to say at the beginning of every training, all right, let's hear about one win for the week for your organization and what is one thing you're grateful for. So if you're focused on always being deficit based and if you're fearful of burnout, maybe start keeping a journal every morning of saying, what is one thing I did yesterday to move the needle for my organization, and start tracking that progress. And my 6th recommendation for avoiding burnout is to create or have a community. It is so important. We can often feel like we're alone floating around, or we're the only one that cares, or nobody sees what we're doing, or we're just by ourselves and we like to work as teams, but we're everyone's boss. And my board president is going rogue every time I talk to him, so I don't really want to. So if this is your situation, I highly recommend you find a community, whether that be a community in your local area or by contacting me to join one of my nonprofit stress-free ED coaching programs, or joining me for any of the great things we have coming up. Again, check out the Nonprofit Nerd website to see what's coming up next. Click the link below, and whether it's my community or another community you join, make sure you have someone to talk to that kind of gets what you're doing and what you're going through. Community is so important. We can't, although we want to be one-man shows, we really can't do it alone, and sometimes it is just those cheerleaders and community of support that are essential for us to survive and avoid burnout. And my final tip to avoid burnout, which probably seems a little bizarre if you're like, Kelly, like I'm already doing so much stuff, is to do something that scares you. Sometimes burnout is because we're just spinning our wheels over here, or we're doing the monotonous same thing all the time, and we really don't really know how to do something different. Maybe this is time for you to reevaluate your life, reevaluate the mission and vision of your organization and the actions you're doing, and if they're really there, and pivot and do something that scares you. That could be something in your personal life. That can be creating that pie in the sky program. That can be shutting down a program or firing staff that are just not in alignment. It is okay to do those things. Think about, for you as a person, what is best. Think about, for your mission and vision of your organization, what is best. And if you have people or programs that are not going to be a part of the vision of your organization, do that scary thing you need to do to create space for that scary needle moving thing for your organization. And again, I hope those 7 tips helped you figure out how to avoid burnout. You are not alone. I am here for you. Join one of my many communities at the nonprofit-nerd.com. Again, my name is Kelly, the Nonprofit Nerd, and make sure to subscribe below because I'll at least be your weekly BFF here on YouTube. Until then, good luck, and I hope you live an impactful life and rest of your week with ease.